Hey guys, welcome to part 11 of my Klondike tutorial in C++. Today we're going to be finishing up our input functions for actually running the game, and we're actually going to successfully be able to play a game of Solitaire. So I want to start off with the change to my start game function. So it's actually the exact same function, except there's a little key difference. So this is going to be in our gamestate.cpp as well as our gamestate.h. So I'm going to quickly change this as I explain kind of what the difference is. So first of all, we actually don't need a reference to the pointer anymore, because now it's just going to be a function that has no input but returns an output of the game state. So instead of referencing a pointer and changing the pointer directly, we're going to make a new game state. We're going to modify that game state, and we're simply going to return that game state. This is because when I was making my notes and actually running the game, I noticed that when we try to start a new game after a game was already in progress, it would not overwrite the existing game. And I feel like this should be able to successfully change it. So the only thing we actually need to change is in our new game function, instead of using a reference to game state, we can simply do, or not here, sorry. Here we don't need a reference to the game state. Instead, we can just do game state equals to start game. And that is the only change. So let's quickly run it just to make sure it works. And we have no errors. And now we can do new game, and we can display it. And then we can do another new game and display it, and it's different. So that's the only change we're doing. And then let's start moving on to our actual input. So in our main.function, function, we need our first map, and I already explained this in the previous video, kind of what a map does. And we're simply just going to do another map, and let's just static this as well. So we have this static map that instead of string to commands, we're doing a character to an integer. And it's going to be called our car suits. This is just so that when we input C, S, D, and H, we know that what suit it is. So for example, C would be clubs, S would be spades, and this is just so we don't have to type out the whole thing or use integers. I feel like this is just a better way to reference it. Next, we actually have our parse help function. And I already wrote out a lot of text for this, and you can download the code off of GitHub if you don't want to type it out line for line. But basically, this is just a nice way to look at the help function. So first we look at the tokens.size, and if it's only one command, then we know that the only input was help itself, and then we can just input some general information about the actual help. Otherwise, we're going to do our Swift map with our map commands, and again we have our map commands over here. And basically, this is just so that we can extract specific information about one help command. For example, if they did help and then quit, we can give them information about what that quit command does. And let me quickly uncomment this code over here to kind of, because it's really better when you can visually see what's actually going on. So let's delete this. Let's recompile our program, and let's take a look. So I can simply do cgk, let's run it, and let's type help. So we can see our help commands, and let's do help. We can see information about the actual help command. We can do a help new game, and we can see new game. We can do our help and move, and we can see a very good description, or a good, in my opinion, a very decent description of kind of what this game is about. Let me just readjust this window, and yeah, we can kind of see. So our formatting is going to be a move, our operation, source, and destination. So let me quickly explain kind of what we're doing. So let's do new game and display. Let's say I wanted to move this 8 of diamonds onto this 9 of clubs. I could simply do move, and then first we need our operation, so that this is a pile to a pile, so it's PP. And we're moving one card. We're moving cards from the 7th pile, and from the 7th pile we're moving one card, and we're moving it to the 6th pile. And so far we don't have this command, as you remember, but that's kind of the general overview of what we're doing. And for some reason, let's say I wanted to move this 2 of clubs to our foundation, we can just do move, and we're moving a pile to a foundation, and we can only move one card at a time, so we just have to specify the pile. So that's kind of what this help command is kind of representing, so the formatting of our move function over there. And finally, let's move on to the actual move function itself. So I've already displayed what formatting it's going to follow. And this is really kind of the meat of the code, and it's really very, very basic stuff just for extracting information from our input. So I'm not going to spend too much time explaining it, and instead I'm just going to quickly go over. So we know for a fact our token size cannot be 1, because if it's just moved by itself, then that is just not a valid move. So basically, let's take a look. So if the move command is a T, then we know that we're turning our stock. So we're going to attempt to turn our stock, and if that is not valid, if we cannot turn our stock, then we know that was a invalid move. Otherwise, we're going to plus our game save move, so we're going to increment our moves, and then we're going to, and I'm doing a try catch, and this is just to prevent that and we have any sort of error. So if we try to do something that just doesn't work, then we're just going to say a formatting error. That means something went wrong, and we're just going to print that out. And then here is our pile to pile. So first we're going to get our input index, and then with our input index we're going to get our pile from and our card index. And this is just kind of when we're doing, for example, let's say we did move pp and we did 716. So first thing, our input index would be at 2, so 0, 1, and 2. This token at 1 is pp, operation is p. So then it's going to take the 71 as our input index. Our pile from would be 71 divided by 10, which is just 7, minus 1, which is 6, since we're indexed as 0. Then the pile from would be 6. Our card index, or in this case a more fitting name would be the number of cards, but I'm just going to leave it as it is, would be a modulo 10, so it would just be 1, so we're moving 1 card. And our pile 2 would be at 3 minus 1, because remember we're indexed as 0, so it would be the 5th pile. The 6th pile, but the index would be 5. And then we just do pile to pile with our reference to our game save pile from and a reference to our game save pile 2 and the number of cards we're actually moving. If it works, we're going to increment our game save move, otherwise we're going to print out invalid move. Same thing with our catch, and that's kind of the same thing we're doing all over the place. Stock to pile, we only need a reference to the location of the pile, so just pile 2, just the string to integer of the tokens at 2. Our S stock to foundation, we need no other input, because when you're moving a card from the stock to foundation, there's only one possible place you can move it from and one possible place you can move it to. Pile to foundation, kind of the same thing, and foundation to pile, also kind of the same thing. And I commented out this code for hint, since we don't have the code for that yet, so we're just going to ignore that input from now. And we also have our else if pile to pile over here, as well as some other stuff. I think this is actually a bit of an accident for me. I'm going to delete that real quick. And yeah, that's about it for the code. So let me uncomment our move function over here, our parse move. And let's just quickly compile it. So we can just run our make, we can run our CGK, we can do a new game, and then display the game. And let's just try to play. I'm not the best player, so I can already see that I can move this 2 of hearts to this 3 of spades, from 3 to 4, and this is 1 card. So I'm going to do my move. I'm going to move from a pile to a pile. I'm going to move 1 card from the 3rd pile to the 4th pile, and as you can see, this operation worked fine. We were able to reveal the next moved card, and everything seems to be working. So let's move this card to here now. Let's try it out. So move 3, 1 into 2, and that is not a valid command, it says. Oh, and as you can see, I forgot my pile to pile, so let's try that again. And as you can see, that worked perfectly fine. So now let's move this this entire pile to here, and here's kind of the big moment, since this is kind of the most meaty function of all. So we're moving 2 cards, moving it to 3, and wow, that worked perfectly fine, just as expected. And it seems that everything is in order. So let's just kind of like play a game out. Now, I'm not the best player of Klondike, clearly. As you guys can see from me, absolutely struggling to play right here. I actually don't even know what I was trying to move there. That was just not a valid move from me. But we can actually move these 2 cards from the 4 pile to the 3 pile, I believe. Yes, just as expected, and it looks great. Everything looks like it's in order. Let's try out our turn function. Let's try an invalid move. So let's just move stock to foundation, invalid move. Looks good. Let's do move SF, like 20 SF, or let's do pile and just do like A. So see, it's deformatting error, since our catch here would be able to catch this kind of operation that we're just doing that is just not allowed. And let's just try to play a game of Solitaire here. I'm not going to play the full game of Solitaire, obviously. I don't want you guys to sit here all day. You guys can come here to watch me play Solitaire. Oh, yep, so here we can move this card to here, so let's try it out. So let's move stock to pile and move to 1. yep, worked just as expected. The next card was turned over. Everything looks just beautiful. Everything seems to be working exactly as expected. And that's actually going to be it for this tutorial. In our next, so this is, we have a full working game now, so this is just absolutely beautiful, guys. It's crazy how far we've come. In our next tutorial, we're actually going to be writing our search function. So you can already see a little quote-unquote hint of our search function, and this is just so the game can kind of play some moves for us, and it's just going to be some really obvious moves, but as you can see, even with such a rudimentary function, we're actually going to see some pretty significant results. So if you're interested in that, please check out my next tutorial. Otherwise, that's going to be it. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave a comment below, and I hope to see you guys in our next tutorial.